for the second time. The Vince Lombardi Trophy is headed to Philadelphia. Eagles fly in Super Bowl 59. Get it back. We're going to run some block, or maybe throw the dagger. Hurts going deep for it all. DeVonta Smith. He has got it. Touchdown.
What if I told you that no one could stop the Philadelphia Eagles? After a dominant season capped off by a Super Bowl win, they look nearly unstoppable. The offense is stacked, the defense is relentless, and most importantly, they have a true X factor in Saquon Barkley. The Eagles were already a powerhouse, but Barkley took them to another level, adding an explosive element to their offense that almost no team had an answer for. But the real question is, who can stop them? Is there a team in the NFC that can take them down, or do the Eagles have a chance of going back-to-back? The Philadelphia Eagles 2024 season was a testament to their exceptional performance on both sides of the ball. The acquisition of Saquon Barkley proved to be the best investment they could have made, and this elevated their offense to new heights. Barkley led the league with 2,005 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns, 278 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. His presence provided a balanced attack, forcing defenses to account for both run and the pass, and this opened up play action and RPO opportunities for Jalen Hurts. Defensively, the Eagles were stacked. They allowed only 18.1 points per game, ranking first in the league, and they were effective against the pass, conceding just 174 passing yards per game, which was the fewest in the NFL. Overall, they allowed 278 total yards per game, leading the league in this category. The defensive front was relentless, recording 41 sacks over the season, while the secondary contributed to 13 interceptions. The Eagles' dominance was evident in their regular season record of 14-3, especially after their bye week. This included a notable win over one of the top regular season teams. They defeated the Baltimore Ravens 24-19, and their only losses came against the Atlanta Falcons, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Commanders, which meant they were only a game away from sweeping the NFC East. In the postseason, the Eagles continued their impressive run. They won the wild card round 22-10 against the Green Bay Packers. They had a 28-22 nail-biter against the LA Rams in the divisional round, and an outright slaughter against the Commanders in the NFC Chip, which had a final score of 55-23. They then picked up right where they left off in a complete annihilation of Pat Mahomes and his Kansas City Chiefs. This ended up being a dominant 40-22 victory, but the game wasn't nearly as close as what the score indicated either. In Super Bowl 59, marking their second Super Bowl win in 7 years, the whole defense shined in this game, including rookie cornerback Cooper DeJean, who returned an interception for a touchdown. This defense sacked Mahomes 6 times, which was the most times he's been sacked in his career, not to mention the 16 pressures they had. This constant pressure resulted in Mahomes throwing 2 interceptions in the first half, which was only the beginning of the Super Bowl beatdown. This complementary football, with the offense controlling time and possession and the defense suffocating opponents, created a ripple effect that propelled the Eagles to the pinnacle of the NFL. To sum it all up, the combination of Barkley's explosive playmaking abilities and the Eagles' feasting defense established them as a dominant force, making them the team to beat in the league. The Super Bowl was supposed to be Saquon Barkley's spotlight. He's been a monster all year, but the Chiefs had other plans. They clamped Philly's star running back, and the Eagles win that turned into a showcase for the rest of the roster. Kansas City's defense swarmed Barkley, holding him to just 57 yards on 25 carries. This resulted in a measly 2.3 yards per play compared to his 5.8 season average. It was a brick wall he couldn't break through, and with their top weapon neutralized, other Eagles had the ball out to seal the deal. This would have been great for the Chiefs if they would have got some offense going, but it didn't happen until it was way too late. Jalen Hurts turned up, stepping up massive when Barkley couldn't. He aired it out for 221 passing yards, hitting AJ Brown for a 12-yard touchdown in the second quarter. Hurts also scrambled for 72 yards. DeVonta Smith also got in on the action. He snagged 5 catches for 76 yards, none bigger than his 46-yard dagger in the third quarter that set up the back-breaking score. DeVonta's speed torched their secondary after the play action stuffed the pass rush. There's not much to say about this game other than that it was a slaughter from beginning to the end. The Eagles' defense was just as dominant as their offense in the 2024 season, making them one of the most complete teams in the NFL. While Saquon Barkley transformed the offense, the defense played a massive role in securing victories and shutting down some of the league's best offenses. The numbers speak for themselves. The Eagles finished the season with 41 sacks and 13 interceptions, consistently applying pressure on opposing quarterbacks and forcing game-changing turnovers. What made this defense so special was the depth and versatility across all positions. The defensive line, led by Jalen Carter Carter, Josh Sweat, and Nolan Smith wreaked havoc in the trenches, making life miserable for quarterbacks. Carter continued to prove why he was one of the best young defensive tackles in the game, dominating in both pass rushing and run defense. Their ability to create pressure without blitzing allowed the Eagles secondary to thrive, leading to crucial interceptions throughout the season. The secondary led by Darius Slay, CJ Gardner-Johnson, and emerging star Cooper DeJean, along with the standout rookie Quinyon Mitchell, who was elite when it came to shutting down big plays. The Eagles defense was impressive in third down situations, holding opponents to a 36% third down conversion rate, one of the best in the league. This defensive unit wasn't just good, they were elite in every sense of the word. Whether it was stopping the run, pressuring the quarterback, or forcing turnovers, the Eagles had all the pieces to dominate. And with their defensive core still intact heading into 2025, they remain one of the toughest matchups for any team in the league. Don't forget to subscribe if you're enjoying NFL breakdowns. You don't want to miss out on future action. The heart of the Eagles defense was their defensive line, a relentless group anchored by Jalen Carter, Josh Sweat, and Nolan Smith. Carter in just his second season proved to be a wrecking force in the middle, finishing with 8 sacks and 12 tackles for loss. Josh Sweat complemented Carter's interior dominance with 4.5 sacks and 9 tackles for loss, showcasing his speed and power as a consistent threat to the quarterbacks. Nolan Smith, the dynamic second-year linebacker and 2023 first-round pick, made his presence felt as well. He finished the season with 6.5 sacks, enabled the Eagles secondary to play aggressively, contributing to their league-best all-around defense. The biggest difference in the Eagles secondary this season was the emergence of rookie Quinyon Mitchell, who immediately stepped into a key role along veteran Darius Slay. Selected in the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft, Mitchell's elite speed and ability to stick to receivers made him a nightmare matchup for opposing receivers. ESPN highlights his standout performance against elite wideouts, noting that he allowed a completion rate of 51.1% when targeted. While young corners often struggle with the transition to the NFL, Mitchell held his own against some of the league's best, which earned him a strong coverage grade in his rookie year. Slay, the unquestioned leader of the group, had 11 pass deflections while also mentoring the younger talent around him. Reed Blankenship solidified himself as a key piece at safety, racking up 71 total tackles, 4 interceptions, and a forced fumble in the postseason. The Eagles defense was also strong in the red zone, holding opponents to a 51.85% touchdown conversion rate. This ranked among the top 10 in the NFL. This resilience was a testament to the defensive coordinator's scheme and players fitting this scheme. The secondary success also helped them get off the field and hand the ball back to Saquon Barkley in the offense. Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, and DeVonta Smith. Those 3 names rang bells throughout the season. These guys didn't just play, they dominated, putting up numbers that forced defenses to respect them. Saquon Barkley was a straight up dog, proving why the Eagles snagging him from the Giants was a GM masterclass. Barkley's 2,283 yards from scrimmage had the whole league on notice. He averaged over 118 yards per game and hitting career highs with 46 explosive runs. The Eagles can thank the Giants' boneheaded general manager for botching Barkley's tenure and handing Philly the keys to his career resurgence.
That feels amazing. It feels amazing. Last year it was, tough year for me mentally. Did a really good job of. They love the Cowboys.
I'm gonna stop you for a second. I'm gonna let the crowd take this one. You guys listen at home. They are saying, "Thank you, Giants."
AJ Brown's a beast in his own sense. He hauled in 67 catches for 1,079 yards and 7 touchdowns. Despite splitting targets in a crowded offense, his 16.1 yards per catch showed that he's still a deep ball threat. Brown's presence alone scared defenses, opening lanes for Barkley and Smith. DeVonta Smith, aka the Slim Reaper, quietly balled out with 68 receptions, 833 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He heated up late, averaging 79.3 yards per game over his last 4 regular season outings. In these last 4 games, he had 4 touchdowns. His 12.3 yards per catch and knack for third down conversions kept drives alive. Together, these 3 accounted for over 60% of Philly's offensive yards in key games. They're not just stats, they're the heartbeat of this title run. The Philadelphia Eagles are the NFC's gold standard after snagging the Super Bowl on February 23, 2025, and that 55-23 demolition of Washington in the NFC Championship was a flex for the ages. With Jalen Hurts, a stacked offense, and a defense that suffocates teams, they're the squad everyone's gunning for, and they could easily roll back-to-back titles, but no champ reigns forever, and there's a couple teams that could possibly fight for this spot in 2025. The Washington Commanders and the Detroit Lions might be at the head of the race in the NFC. I would would say the Rams, but judging by offseason rumors, they're looking to go into rebuild mode. The Commanders could climb the mountain with a killer offseason, while the Lions, despite their regular season shine, are slipping at the worst time. Washington caught everybody off guard in 2024, finishing with a 12-5 record and pushing to the NFC Championship behind rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. Daniels was one of the most electric rookie quarterbacks of all time, with over 3,500 passing yards, 891 rushing yards, and 31 total touchdowns. He showed he's a legit franchise cornerstone. With his rookie deal locked in, the Commanders are sitting pretty with around $80 million in cap space, which is the third most in the league. They have 7 draft picks, including a first rounder, and that's a ton of room to build. They could beef up the offensive line to keep Daniels upright, maybe grab a number 2 receiver to team up with Terry McLaurin, and they also need to add some juice to that D-line. If the Commanders ace this offseason, they just might have a prayer against the Eagles. A splash move like trading for a stud like Myles Garrett might be the wave. In the NFC Championship, Daniels played a solid game, but turnovers that came from other players was the beginning of the end for this team's playoff run. Then there's the Detroit Lions, who looked untouchable at 15-2, snagging the NFC's top seed with a franchise best regular season record. But their 45-31 playoff flop against Washington showed that they're not invincible at all, and 2025 could get even more messy. Losing offensive coordinator Ben Johnson to the Bears and defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn to the Jets is a gut punch. Dan Campbell's still the soul of the squad, but new coordinators stepping in won't have an easy time keeping that machine running against a team like Philly, especially since they lost most of their coaching staff. And Jared Goff's just another headache. He lit up the regular season where he finished second in passing yards with 4,629 yards and 37 touchdowns, but all this meant nothing when he folded when it counted, tossing 3 picks and a fumble against Washington. This included a back-breaking pick 6, and this is a pattern I'm starting to see. Super Bowl 53 with the Rams, last year's NFC chip collapse against the Niners. Goff just doesn't show up in the clutch. Against Philly's suffocating pass defense, he would need to be perfect, and history shows that he won't be. With the 2025 road slate stacked with the Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Commanders, and a coaching staff in transition, Detroit's got too many questions to topple a juggernaut like Philly right now. So right now, the Eagles are just that team, loaded and ready to go back to back. The Commanders got youth, cash, and momentum, but they need everything to break their way to outshine Barkley and company. The Lions have the roster and Campbell's grit, but Goff's meltdowns and coaching losses dim their shine. Beating Philly in 2025 means bringing more than hope. It means matching their intensity, depth, and execution. So right now, back-to-back Super Bowl appearances feel more than likely than anyone catching them. The Eagles are riding their high horse after this Super Bowl win, and the question isn't just whether they can stay at the top of the NFC, it's whether they can go back-to-back and cement themselves as a dynasty. With a loaded offense and a defense that got to opponents all last season, the Eagles are built to repeat. Their path to another Lombardi looks pretty clear in the NFC, where they've already proven they can handle rising threats like the Commanders and Lions. But the real test comes late next year, when the AFC heavyweights like the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, and maybe the Bengals, if they could get their defense together. Philly's got pieces, but a few cracks in their armor might just give those teams an opening. The road back starts with what the Eagles already bring to the table, that 2024 defense. And that defense isn't going anywhere. This defense is young and hungry, and they're only getting better. Offensively, Hurts has A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, and Saquon Barkley, a trio that tore apart defenses all year and gave Philly versatility that few could match. The NFC's landscape plays too much into their hands too. Washington's kind of still building. Detroit, I don't know, they're kind of on the decline a little bit. And teams like the Niners and Cowboys just have way too many question marks. If the Eagles lock up the #1 seed again with home field advantage at the Link, they're a nightmare to knock out. They've got the coaching, the talent, and the swag to cruise through the conference playoffs like they did in 2024. The Kansas City Chiefs, led by Patrick Mahomes, are the obvious hurdle. Mahomes has 3 rings already, and even with the 2024 season that saw them lose to Philly at the Super Bowl, I honestly don't think they're done. Their defense is still pretty good, and if they add something to the receiving core and some offensive linemen, they could be back in business. The Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson's dual threat ability is another obstacle, but Jackson's ability in the playoffs fades in the worst way, and no one knows why. Jackson's 2024 stats were unreal, but it's going to be hard for him to get over that playoff hump. To put it into perspective, Jackson's stats in 8 playoff games are 1,753 yards, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and 4 fumbles lost. Then you got the Cincinnati Bengals, who stumbled in 2024 even though Joe Burrow had an MVP season. They have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and a chip on their shoulder. A healthy Burrow with an offseason to tweak their shaky O-line and their terrible defense could turn Cincinnati into a scary machine that tests Philly's ability to keep up. And we also can't forget the Buffalo Bills, who fell short in 2024. They still have Josh Allen, a one-man wrecking crew who's elite in his own sense. If Allen stays healthy and they shore up their thin receiving room and grab some key defensive pieces in the secondary, Buffalo can turn into a force that challenges Philly for that top spot. Those AFC juggernauts could expose some weaknesses that didn't fully surface in 2024. But still, these are nitpicks for a team this complete. Philly's coaching staff with Nick Sirianni and Vic Fangio, who has a knack for adjusting mid-game, something that carried them in tight spots in 2024. Their depth means injuries won't derail them like they might a Bengals or a Ravens squad. And Hurts, he's proven he could go toe-to-toe with Mahomes or Jackson like he did in that Super Bowl win. So can the Eagles win it again? Absolutely. The NFC is theirs to lose, and their roster is built to handle the AFC's best. The Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, and Bengals will push them, maybe even expose a flaw or two, but this team's got the juice to repeat, and it'll come down to the execution in the clutch, and right now, Philly's the one everyone's chasing. Philadelphia Eagles aren't just celebrating a Super Bowl win. They're setting the stage for a run that could stretch for years. It's not just how dominant last season was, it's how young their core is. With a roster stacked with rising stars still in their early 20s and key players locked in for the long haul, the Eagles have the kind of youth that screams dynasty. While vets like Darius Slay and Fletcher Cox brought wisdom to the championship push, it's the young guys, Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, Nolan Smith, Cooper DeJean, and others who signal that Philly's not a one-and-done champ, but a team built to keep the NFC on notice and chase more rings. And this offense is still ready to go. Jalen Hurts, the Super Bowl MVP who turns 27 in August 2025, he's still in his prime and locked in a long-term deal as the franchise heartbeat. DeVonta Smith, 26, AJ Brown, 27, they form a receiver duo that's locked in long-term. With Smith fresh off his extension and Brown still in his prime years, that's a duo to be reckoned with. Saquon Barkley is the oldest out of the bunch at 28, but his 2024 explosion shows he's got plenty left in the tank, and he's secured a long-term deal in green. The reigning Super Bowl champs are loaded with young talent, putting them in a position that favors for a repeat. They're the NFC's undisputed leader, challenging AFC heavyweights to bring their best, but who can really beat them in 2025? Share your take below and subscribe for more NFL breakdowns.